Hello again, Graham Cox from Moody Views. I thought today we'd have a go at a lovely autumn scene with some lovely autumn trees and a little muddy track to give us a lead in to the picture. I'm going to be using my set of 14 half pastels. These are Rembrandt half pastels, 100% non-toxic, and the black one in the end there is a Conte black, which is just slightly harder. I'll be using my set of Caran d'Ache super soft pastel pencils. This is a set that I've made up myself out of the 72 that are available in the full set, and I've got a double-ended eraser and a number 6 soft chisel-edged colour shaper. I've got my sheet of A4 Canson Miton on the smooth side, and I've given myself a very faint outline just to work into. So I'm going to start this picture using the 5487 pastel. I've got a nice flat area there that I've worn it down where I've been using it before, and that's a good area to use. I'm going to put a little bit of colour into the tree, but not too much. I don't want to fill this area with pastel, otherwise it'll make it more difficult to get the foliage on. So just a medium pressure for this first layer. I'm covering all of the sky at this stage with this colour. And then into that I'm going to work a little bit of 5367 violet. And I'm going to run a little bit of 5067 ultramarine into the top up there. I'm going to blend all those colours together, and then we'll work back into it with a bit more colour. So I'm going to use my fingertips, run around in little circles, pressing fairly hard, just to push that pastel down into the tooth of the paper. And in that area there where I put very little colour, I'm now smudging it. So that gives me a very thin layer of pastel, which gives me maximum tooth of paper left to get the autumn foliage on the tree. You have got to press fairly hard when you're blending this first layer in, right up to the top, right into the corners, out to the edges there. So that's the first layer blended, nice and smooth. Now we'll work back into that and build it up a little bit. Touch more cobalt blue right at the top, and a little bit of violet into it. This is the 5367 again. And I'm going to give that a blending now. This next layer is much easier to blend than the first layer, because now you're blending into a layer of pastel that's already underneath. You're not blending it into the tooth of the bare paper, so it gets much easier. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow. See, I'm still using that flat edge, and then a little bit more violet, 5367. And this is a colour that's not in the set. This has come out of the 90 half pastel set that's also available. And I'm just going to put a little hint of orange just around and into there. Don't want too much, it's quite a powerful colour. Now I'm going to blend from the yellow and work outwards, and then I won't go back into the yellow. Still blending in circles. Just going to brighten that up a little bit, just through the centre part, through here. Same colours. Gently blending it. So got a nice bit of an autumn glow back in the distance. I'm going to go in with the white pastel pencil, and the reason I use these Caran d'Ache pencils is because they're so soft that they will work into an underlayer of pastel. If I tried to do this with a harder pastel pencil, you'll find you'll scratch through that layer back to the bare paper underneath. So I'm just trying to create a little highlight in here. Just fade that edge off a touch. That'll do. Just a nice little highlight in there. Just going to darken a little bit that very bottom there. We're going to put some distant trees into there in a second. There we go. Just darkening it a touch. Okay, so for the distant trees, I'm going to use the pastel pencils, and I'm going to begin with the 506, and I'm going to use the side of the point. Very light touch, just round and round, and by moving it round and round with the side or the flat of the point, you'll find that you only put colour on the top of the tooth of the paper. That allows the undercolour that's just been blended to show through, and you get these lovely texture. The paper's doing the work for you. So I'm just creating some shapes. These are going to get blended and smudged in a minute, but I just want to get some shapes that are way back in the distance there. I'm going to put another one just here. A little bit of a hedgerow there. Okay, so little finger, just very gently round and round in little circles. I'm not too worried about smudging it downwards, but I don't want to go any higher. Just distant shapes. Now we'll work into that and put a little bit of colour on some of these that are a little nearer the light. So this is 047, same technique though, side of the point, very very gently, just a light touch, and you're just trying to get a little bit of colour to sit where it would be catching the light that's coming from that little bit of evening sunlight. Perhaps a little touch on that edge. And again, just a little finger, just a very gentle softening. I'm hardly touching it, just very gently. And I'm going to take an orange, this is 300 orange, just put a final highlight. Blow the excess away. Just very very gently done. And I'm going to go in with the darker grey. This is the 008, and just put a little hint of perhaps a bit of a hedgerow. I'm going to run over this with a little bit of brown in a minute, but this is a kind of a base colour, just for a little bit of a hedgerow going on back there. And I'm going to go over that with 408 dark brown. We don't want tree trunks and branches and all sorts of detail going on back there, because that'll bring it forward. We want it to sit back in the distance. That'll do. So now I'm going to work on the distant field, but before I put the colour on it, I'm going to put a bit of white through here. And the idea of this is that the colour that goes on top of it will get lightened. So we want the field as it's further away to look lighter. This helps us to create this illusion of depth. Because as the colour comes off of the white and into the bare paper, it will be more intense. So a little bit of orange. This is the 300 orange. You can see as I've come into the bare paper there, the orange is more intense. But further away, right back in the distance, it's strong, it's duller, it's lighter. You could go back over it again, a little bit more white if you wanted to, just to lighten it. Now I'm going to put a little hint of pale green in. This is 232. Very, very light touch of this. Trying to get this early morning feel. I'm just going to bring that colour down a little bit further now, this orange colour. Side of the point, remember that will give you texture. And then a little touch of that green into there. The green and the orange just mixed together. Nothing's been blended yet down here. And I'm going to run in with a little bit of 047 just on this nearer bit down here. This is where I want to start introducing texture. Right, let's put a little bit of colour into where the puddle is going to be. Making it slightly bigger than it will actually finish up. We'll bring the field edges in over that in a minute and just make it slightly smaller. I'm going to put a tiny hint of the sky colour into the edge of the water here. Not on that side, just over here. There's a little bit of the lighter violet, that's the 5487, and a tiny touch of orange. And then what I'm going to do is put my finger on that and pull that down to start with, and then smooth it out. Just put a little bit of a shine back over it. Right, I'm now going to work on this area here. So what I'm going to start this with is a little square of Conte black. Now I've broken that into a really small piece. Being square, you've got 4 flat edges, so pick any one, completely flat to the paper, and very lightly just move it round and round. The lightest possible touch. So what happens, it sits the black on the tops of the paper's texture, but not down in the little hollows. So you get this lovely textured speckled effect, but the paper's doing it for you. And I'm going to work my way up the trunk of this tree, because there's all sorts of ivy and stuff growing up the old trunk there. That'll do. Not blended. Now I'm going to work into that with a bit of red. This is the 069. You could use 089. Just trying to get some colour, base colour. And a little bit of the 047. On the top edges. We're going to scrape some colour into there to finish that off at the end, so I'm not too worried about that at the moment. Right, the branches of the tree, I've got a nice sharp 408, the dark brown, and what you'll see me do here is you'll see me twisting the pencil as I go. And what that does, you can't really control where the pencil line goes if you're twisting it like that. And you get much more natural looking branches. And at the end of the stroke, I just lift the pencil off the paper, and that gives me that lovely fine tapered end. This outline that I had, that I'm working to here, was on the surface of the paper when I started, will be available for you to download from the website. A free download. You would just log on to the Moody Views website, www.moodyviews.co.uk, go to the Pastels, Tools and Paper page, look for the outline image, this particular one, and click to download it. So you would then just put a piece of this my pastel paper into your printer, and you can print the outline onto there for yourself, and then you could log on to the YouTube and paint along with me if you wanted to. I'm going to be putting some autumn foliage around the end of these branches, so I'm not too worried at the moment. I don't want to do every single one because we're going to cover some of them up. Okay, that'll do for that. I've smudged it a little bit just there, so we'll just clean that up. Okay, same colour, 408, pencil right on its side, very, very gently. I'm hardly touching the surface of the paper here. I just want to deposit a little bit of colour onto the end of those branches. Tiny touch of the 069 red. Exactly the same way, same technique. I've got the 066 here. And then I'm going to go in with the 300 orange. Just touch some colour onto the ends. Still not quite finished with this yet. What I'm going to do now is put the ivy that is growing up the trunk there. So what I'm going to do to get that, I've got a scalpel blade here. I've got my dark green 719. So right down close to the surface of the picture, and just scrape and let the fragments drop onto your picture. That's the dark colour. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of, let's have a bit of colour on there. Let's have this one, 232. And I'm going to put a little bit of 212. And then I'm going to put a little bit of colour, so 300 orange. And I'm going to let these fragments drop all over this hedgerow. Touch of orange, 066. Touch of burgundy. And finally a little touch of white, just on the highlight side of that tree. Perhaps a little bit more dark just into the base. Now none of these fragments are currently attached or stuck to the paper, and if we stood the picture up to look at it, they would all drop off. So we need to fix those into the surface of the paper. So this is where we use this sheet of acid-free crystalline leafing paper. It's called glassine. It's got a waxy surface. I'm going to lay that flat onto my picture, very carefully that it doesn't slide. Let it drop down and then press. So you're now pressing all those little fragments of colour into the surface of the painting. And then carefully take it off. And they're all stuck on now. So now we can work on the rest of it. So from the edge of the puddle here, I'm going to use the 047. So where the ground is wet, it's darker. And as I said, this is where I'm going to start to bring the field edges in over the edges of the puddle. So side of the point still, nice long strokes. And then again coming downwards from the base of those bushes. A little bit of dark brown up here. This would be in shadow there. So I'm going to add a little bit of dark just there. Again, just picking out the edges. I'm going to introduce a little bit of the 069, the burgundy red. This will help to bring this bottom part of the picture forward and give the picture a little bit more depth. None of this has been blended. I'm going to introduce a few posts that are sticking out of this little bit of a hedgerow here. Maybe a little bit of a reflection there. And I'm going to put another post there, which I again will reflect into the water. I'm going to go back to my little bit of black Conte, flat down, and just pick out a little bit of dark, and then holding it completely flat, give myself a nice dark foreground. It'll help to give the picture some depth. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, just a little touch more black on there. I'm going to use the colour shaper tool. So I'm using the end flat. I'm just going to touch that black I just touched on there and pull it down as a reflection. Just tease it into the water like that. little touch of dark just on the end here. And there we are. So a very simple autumn scene with some lovely autumn trees. All of the materials I've used here, that's the set of pastels, the set of pencils, the colour shaper and the double-ended eraser, are available as a complete set that we're doing on a special offer at the moment. It's called The Works. It's available through the Moody Views website on the Pastels, Tools and Paper page, and it also comes with a pack, a free pack of my pastel paper. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll be back again very soon. Thank you very much.